We already marked our design, and we're gonna start with our skeleton. Skeleton is also called your primary strands. So if more or less creates the bottom design of your brows. So as you reach you can actually mark the point where it's already starting to fully transform from an upward stroke to a downward stroke. So we are now reaching our transition. As you can see, we are following exactly her hairdo because our goal is to make it look very natural. So we're transitioning. If your hand is there, you can actually go back to the same strand several times, as long as you don't move your hand. So you just go exactly where you were the first time. So you see I have transitioned, and now I have reached the part where my strand is almost as flat as the shape of my brows. So I have created my bone for the upward. Now I'm going to create my skeleton or bone for the downward motion. Make sure when you're doing your downward strokes, you are diagonal, not going down like that, because that's very unnatural. You are actually following what hair the client has. But this part, we already have almost no hair. So the design that we're gonna do later is we're going to end this portion in micro shading. So I'm gonna do exactly the same on the other side, starting with my upward bone strokes. I am creating the bottom of her brows. So as you can see, I am starting from where my design is, because I want that shape at the bottom to be very clear. So again, unless you move your hand, you can actually go to the same strand several times. That's my adherence technique. She has very old faded work underneath. That's why you see a red cast or orange cast underneath. We're gonna try to cover that. You can ask your client to move her head if you are having a hard time seeing her work area. And lastly, the one is of the same shape there. Now we're gonna work on her downward strokes. Again, putting sideward. Making it sideward as opposed to going down harshly. Trying to keep my needle 90 degrees. Okay, so that's our skeleton. Okay. With my secondary strands, I'm gonna start way higher than my first skeleton. So I'm gonna begin in the middle and create something like that as my secondary strand. What I'm trying to do on my secondary strand is reach the design on top. So there will be strands creating that line on top. Okay. So again, as you can see, my secondary strands starts higher but also ends up higher compared to the first strands. Okay. So for this part, I'm going to draw it first before. So I'm planning something that hits this on top and another that hits the design on top. So again, this one will start higher but hit the end of this original skeleton. There you go. And then my second strand, because there's still a big space, will start higher again and reach my topmost drawing to complete this shape. So again, I'm already completing the bottom and now completing the top. As I continue my planning this out again. So I'm creating a strand here and another strand there. So then a higher one and another one here. As you complete microblading, it's starting to get so messed up you don't actually see where you're working on. So it is better to wipe if you cannot see anymore and just continue on another pass. As for me, I can still see where I lack, so I'm just gonna continue with that. And just as for the downward strokes, you can connect this, you can go a bit lower and then make a strand to make the tail of your first strand. Although this part we're really gonna shade, we just want to create a form. So the bottom here, we're gonna use a machine. So creating my secondary strands on the other side. Again, higher, higher, and then ends up higher as well. You probably can hardly see what's going on anymore because it is already so messy, but we're gonna go back after our first pass to see where we lack. Awesome. So I'm just making sure that I fill in and reach the design here on top. Because once we wipe that, we can't see the line anymore, but your strands will show you where you're supposed to go. So here it's clearer. We have that safe gap over there. So we start there and we can again, we're gonna shade this part, so I'm really just putting my markers here and continue with shading there. Okay. So the bottom, we're using our 1 needle, 1 or needle, to do very soft filling in at the bottom. Very soft. I'm not touching the strands there. I'm just touching the bottom of the tail for now. And we will discuss with the client if she wants to have more shading on other parts. But for now, we're sticking to the bottom of the tail. So very fast movements. So we will have that pixelized look. Alright. Okay. Okay, so right now, we already did our first pass. As you can see, those are the strands that we put in. However, we still lack strands under here, in this area. So we still need to add some more strands. There. While here in the end, we need to add more shading for definition. And here we also need to add more strands. We use a very light color on her because her natural brows are light and her skin is also light. Sometimes when I have too much pigment on my microblades, I wipe it on my gloves. Okay, so we're gonna fill in the bottom because our design is actually here. I'm just gonna draw it. It's supposed to be here, right? But then as you can see, the bottom is empty. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 skeleton strands that fills the bottom. So we're gonna add some more to make it that thicker. If you see the behavior of her hair, it's not all going like that. So we need some strands that will create some sort of more natural branching out of strands. Because if you keep on making the same shape of strands, it's more 3D look. So we're trying to make everything more 6D. So you can create those branching strands. I really don't believe in patterns. The pattern that I do is what is closest to the person's hair. So your pattern or design you've been watching on videos doesn't necessarily apply to everyone. So you have to see if it looks natural on your client. Okay, so for now, we were able to apply some strands there, but it is not oxidizing yet. So what we can do, we can leave some product there for now and let our strands oxidize. So we will do that while I'm working on the tail. Okay, so again with my tail, I'm going to use my nano pinning or one-way stripping movements to make everything more natural. So I know my machine is fast, but it's really one-way, working on one-way stripping. put some more color because she has a very old work. That we need to reach. Alright, so we're already seeing some color being adhered. Pause mo muna. There, we already found our... Bigla naman eh, lumabas naman ito. Right now, we already have some very mild color here at the ends. Adding to that a little bit more. Don't be scared if you see droplets of blood. We actually need that. Seeing droplets of blood shows you that you are hitting the right depth. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is just putting a little bit of shadow in between my strands to make it fuller. But this side of the brows, I'm leaving that with pure microblading to create that very ombre look. So I'm leaving the color here for now for adherence, and I'm moving to the other side. Again, my machine 1R needle. Only because I want it to be very soft, because I'm leaving the head only microbladed, so I want the tail to be very soft as well. That's why I'm using 1R needle. Because I know that this lady can come back for a retouch. If she requires a stronger look for her second session, then we can do so. But if you think that your client is not coming back for a retouch, let's say she lives in another state or town, then you can use your 3 or even your flat 5. So just inserting color here also, just like on the other side for more volume. This will not create a very strong color, but just shadows around your existing ones. Check that. So I'm cleaning with silver colloidal, nano silver colloidal, to prevent any infection, especially with your pimple over here. There you go. So we have some color already. As you can see, we have shaded this enough. But we still lack a little bit of strand over here. So I'm just gonna add in a little bit more color on the shading, and then I'm going back to my microblading needles. As I'm doing my shading, I'm actually following the direction of the hair as well. And again, it's just fast movement, so I am not losing my strands. I'm just merely adding shadow in between. In between is a good thing. Okay, so I'm leaving my shading there for now while I go back again to my microblading pen. So as you can see, we have a little bit of blank here. We can actually put a different direction, kind of straighter, to make that bushier. Okay. Going back to this existing one, just to fill in the color. It's there, but the color is has not adhered well yet. Okay, so I'm just filling in the colors. And I'm leaving that for now, for absorption. You know, when there are hair here in this, like the hair that she has right now, some are pointing in another direction, making it bushier. You can actually use that to create a bushier look for your client. You can create 2 short strands in the beginning to copy what she already has. Okay, so creating a bushier strand at the beginning, because bushy brows are in as of the moment. Okay, so alright, so at this point we're just checking our symmetry to be sure. So when the client is lying down, it would be hard for you, like right now her mask is not properly placed. So what I do, I check the tear ducts, and that will be the basis of my horizontal lines. So there, it's kind of slipping down. Alright, so I'm doing this to see if the bottom of my brow is still symmetric, the top of my brow is still symmetric, and my arch line is still symmetric. Okay, so as you can see, so far the bottom is good. We made our head just very bushy. I added outward strands in the beginning to make it more natural looking. And then our arch, she has more hair here. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but she has more hair here compared to this one. So let me just see how we can add up that one to make it look bushier as well. So I can actually add a few higher strands here. As for the tail, okay, so the client is requesting if we can make the top darker as well. So we're gonna try to shade the top part. Other than that, we'll keep everything else natural. Okay, so I'm getting my machine again. So I can add more shading at the top of the tail. Okay, so here. So as you can see, we already did shading here at the bottom. But she wants the top of her brows to be more pronounced. So I'm using my machine to add the shadow Not just at the bottom this time, but all the way to the top. So as I did on the other side, I am also applying on the top of this other side, as the client wants more definition on the top of the tail. Because she hardly has hair on the tail, so if we keep it, I actually agree with her, if we keep it microbladed, it will feel like something is lacking. Okay, so I'm leaving that for now, and I'm gonna apply anesthetic again to be sure the client feels very comfortable. So we are going back to some strands that did not adhere well. I'm sure you can see we have strands here but lacks color, so we're going back to it and make it slightly deeper for more adherence. Here we need to build a little bit more volume. So if my earlier strand was this, I placed the direction of my other one a bit straighter for more volume and variety of strands. Okay, I'm just going back to already existing strands that need more depth. There you go. And lastly over here. There. Now with that, I am going to my machine again. Final application of pixels or those dots, the nano pinning look. One-way stripping following the direction of the hair, so it will not overpower my microblading earlier, but just cast a shadow in between. Here at the bottom though, I can make it a bit stronger, as that is really my objective. I want the bottom to be more part more pronounced. Alright. So there. Then I'm leaving the strands here again on the head. Now on the other side, I'm also gonna do the same by adding depth to my strands. You already see my strands, but it requires depth just to be sure that it will adhere. Okay, letting go of my machine and working with my microblading needle. Okay, again, the strands are there. It just needs a little bit of depth. I'm doing last and final pass, both on my secondary and primary strands. Still cannot pass the simple area. We're just gonna have to work on that when she comes back for a retouch. If you have mole or warts or pimple in the eyebrow area, you're gonna have to skip that part. There, you can see the pimple. You skip that part again. But then I am going to shade the ends. Then as requested by the client, putting more pixelized color on top to make it even on the other side. Just quick one-way hand movements. But then at the bottom, I'm making it more pronounced by doing two-way stripping, but very fast. Still very fast. And then one-way stripping on top. And in between, the strands we have in the middle. So this pimple part, I'm just gonna add a little bit of color underneath, since I can't microblade it. Okay. So right now, this is my last and final pass. So I have a fixing agent. It's a product that helps the color adhere well. So I'm just gonna drop that there. If you have this, you can do so. If you don't, you can just cover the color with a Ceron wrap or a cling wrap. So there. So I soaked in the color, I soaked in the brows with my fixing solution mixed with the pigment that I was using. Now I'm gonna cover that with my cling wrap. And let it be absorbed for about 5 to 10 minutes. Depends on how much time you still have. Okay, that's why when I make it face the wall, it is more natural looking. Okay, thank you.